Game show. And last week, Donovan McNabb said that he thinks Terrell Owens is responsible for the Eagles not reaching their full potential in the early 2000s. Just months after losing to the Patriots in Super Bowl 39, some things that Terrell did, like the driveway sit-ups and ordering pizza for reporters, were things that McNabb alluded to. So, Terrell, you're still with us. How surprised were you that this just came out of the blue like that?
Yeah, very much so surprised. I mean, what, 15, 16 years later? Honestly, I mean, there was a time and a place, and for me, I mean, in respect to Kobe, today is just not that day.
Sure.
I can address it, you know, at another time. I come back on for sure. Or I can get you guys on my podcast, you know, one or both of you guys, and we can talk about it. But, you know, out of respect for Kobe, like today, I'm not feeling it. Today is not that day.
Yeah.
I hear you. I think we all got reminded harshly yesterday to love and live every moment because the next one's not promised. And yet, as you know, we've gone back and forth about this for years. I've had many talks with Donovan about it, with Hugh Douglas, with Brian Dawkins, and maybe this is a day of letting go those kind of bitternesses that do us no good going forward. But I do think, knowing Donovan the way I do, he needed to let this go. He just sort of unleashed it all, like just spilled it all out. And maybe after what happened, the shock of yesterday, maybe that's it. Maybe it's done. Maybe you can all put it to rest.
I mean, like I said, I don't have anything against him. At the end of the day, like I said, it is what it is. You know, I did what I did, considering and under those circumstances in Philadelphia. I enjoyed my time there. I did the best that I could. They brought me there to help, you know, get them beyond the 4 NFC championships they had failed to get past. And, you know, I think when you talk about the swagger and my playmaking ability, in which Andy utilized to the best of my abilities.
Andy Reid?
Yep. Yeah, Andy Reid, yes. Yep. I did that, you know. I can't fight a man's jealousy, envy, whatever the case may be. There was a lot of things that happened throughout the course of that year, speculative-wise, and there were people that were bringing things to me unbeknownst. But like I said, I was blown away. I was shocked at some of the things that were being said and his reactions to a lot of things. When you talk about me coming from the San Francisco 49ers, playing there, and they brought me there, I felt a little bit of pressure. They brought me there to get them over the hump.
Oh, and it was huge.
And so, you know, for that city to embrace me the way that they did, and I embraced them as well. And so, you know, from the first snap, first play that was thrown to me, it went for 81 yards. Right on the jersey number. You know what I mean? So that kind of set the tone for the season.
Right.
I was brought there for a reason, you know, and I felt like I tried to do whatever I could. And unfortunately, I got hurt, you know, later on in that season. I played in the Super Bowl with 2 screws and a plate in my ankle. And there were a lot of things that, again, you know, that was brought to my attention of how he changed, you know, towards me. When you talk about the Lincoln Financial Stadium and 70,000+ people chanting your name, when I guess he got drafted there, they booed him. He wasn't well received, and so it's like I'm an outsider coming in, and I'm getting that love and that recognition, that embrace that I'm sure he wanted. I'm sure he probably took, you know, a little bit of offense to it and felt a bit slighted. But I can't be the blame. I can't be the scapegoat for what did or didn't happen. You know, going into that playoff run for the Super Bowl, you know, he got annoyed by the many questions. Was I going to play? Was Terrell going to play? And he made some discouraging, you know, comments. You know, we got here without him. You know, we can win without him. And, you know. And
how did that make you feel?
For a guy that always have been politically correct and addressed certain questions like that in the best possible way, he didn't do that with me. So I knew it was personal. But I did what I could, you know, considering the circumstances.
I'm sorry. Have you seen Donovan since those days at all?
Yeah, I've seen him, and
okay.
I played in softball game. Larry Fitzgerald has a softball game, and we've run into each other.
So you thought you was cool prior to him making this comment?
Yeah.
You thought you were cool?
Absolutely. I mean, it was cordial. When you talk about burying the hatchet or what have you and letting bygones be bygones, I had run into him a couple of times and spoken, and it was cordial, and I left it at that.
Right.
But to get this out of left field, it's a bit disappointing, especially from a guy like that.
See, when I look at it, and Skip and I talked about this a little bit last week, is that teams bring you in to help get them over the hump. And the moment it doesn't happen, well, the reason why we didn't get over the hump because of T.O. Well, then why'd you bring him there?
Well,
you get scapegoated when things go wrong, but you're supposed to be the savior when things aren't going right. So I'm confused.
And I am too. And the fact that he said that they didn't need me, then how did I prevent them from getting back to the Super Bowl?
Right.
If that's the case, if you're so good and you're confident in the guys around me, you didn't need me to get back to the Super Bowl, if that's the case.
Right. Clearly he did.
So I'm with Terrell. Yeah, well said. I'm with Terrell. Today is not the day. And yet, you just mentioned you played for Andy Reid, and we just talked about you played for the San Francisco 49ers. So there is a football game that is going to be played this coming Sunday, and you are leaning which way?
I mean, my heart's in San Francisco.
Yep.
That's why I had, the start of my career. I'm blessed and thankful for the opportunity to start my career there. I did some great things in 8 years. And then I transitioned. I go to Philadelphia Eagles. I played a year and 7 games there and was playing at a pretty high level.
Right.
And Andy Reid utilized me like I wanted to be utilized in San Francisco.
Right.
When you talk about, playing 21 games and scoring 20 touchdowns, I was scoring at a clip that's unheard of.
Right.
And so I welcomed the opportunity to play with a quarterback like Donovan, that pocket passer, able to throw every pass in the passing tree. And the quarterback styles was a bit different. Going from Jeff Garcia, which is a out of the pocket, type of player, can, do some things on the run. He wasn't your prototypical quarterback, stand in the pocket, throw the ball 50, 60 yards down the field. And I got an eye-opener in training camp, going to Lehigh Stadium. It's about 10,000 people. That was the impact that I had coming to Philadelphia. And, I ran my first go route. My body is so accustomed to running go routes for Jeff Garcia.
Right.
So I would, kind of three-quarter it with Jeff Garcia, and I could see him throw it, and if he threw it farther, I could go get it.
Right.
I tried that with Donovan. I almost tore my hamstring. I went back to the huddle, and my coach, David Culley, he said, look, he said, I know what you've been used to. You ain't got to worry about that with 5. He has a hose.
He has a hose. So, describe the Andy Reid that we're going to see on Sunday. How is he? How did he coach you? What is he like to play for?
I think you've seen it with Patrick Mahomes, and before Patrick Mahomes became Patrick Mahomes, you saw it with Tyreek Evans.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like Tyreek Hill with those receivers. Sammy Watkins using a tight end. It's kind of eerie similar to when I was there with the Eagles. We had L.J. Smith. We had Chad Lewis. We had receivers on the outside, Todd Pinkston, myself, Freddie Mitchell. He's going to do.
Don't mention them other guys to you. Well, I know you're being politically correct, but don't do that.
And myself. And so he basically utilized those guys, and I texted Andy Reid and wished him congratulations, and he hit me back, and he was saying, his response was, I'm hoping one of my guys can have the day that you had in Jacksonville. And so he's going to, trust me, he's going to have a game plan. Those guys are going to be ready. And trust me, I know Andy Reid. He's going to be very, very prepared for this.
It's hard not to like red, isn't it?
Oh, my God. Trust me. He's my favorite coach that I've ever played for.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know I've played with a number of coaches, George Seifert, who obviously is a great Hall of Fame coach. I didn't get to play the tenure of my career. I only played 1 year with George Seifert. But when you talk about a cerebral mind, you're talking about a coach, like I said, that's all I ever wanted, was to be utilized to the best of my abilities. And I knew, looking back on it, some frustration set in, and I had to make do with what I had.
Right.
And so the different quarterbacks that obviously factored in, like you said, there's a dependency. You know, I can only do what my quarterback does. You know what I mean? And so with Andy Reid, like I said, the best coach that I ever played for.
Even my brother's OC in Green Bay, and my brother loves Andy. Yeah. All those guys, Andy Reid, Gruden, Mariucci, all those guys were on that staff under Holmgren in Green Bay.
So your heart's in San Francisco, but now I think your heart and your head is saying Kansas City.
My homeboy.
I think whichever outcome, I'm going to be happy. I mean, if the Niners win, I'm going to be ecstatic about it. If Andy Reid gets the win, I'm going to be ecstatic about it because I felt like had I not been hurt, had I been 100% when we played the Patriots in Super Bowl 39, I think we may have a different outcome.
Right.
Wow.
So allow me to say, you've been great today.
Thank you so much.
Really good.
Appreciate it.
Thank
My
you.
mom will be proud of me.
So moving forward today, we're going to put all that pettiness aside.